Okay, so first let's listen to how the drop sounds. So that's the most important part of the track. And now I will go through all the tracks and explain what I did. So first we have the kick. And I always make them myself using Kick 2. It's a plugin by Sonic Academy. And I use it for all my kicks basically. I have this starting point and then I adjust based on what the song actually needs. And the cool thing about this is that you can also see the notes. So you can really adjust it to the key you're working in. And then a little transient shaper. I use Neutron for this. There's like multiple instances that you can use. An exciter. Gives it a little bit more presence. A little bit of EQ on the around 300 Hertz. And a tiny compressor. Then we have the bass line. It consists of 2 layers actually. So the first layer is a synth from Serum. And the second layer is recorded with the Moog Subsequent. Let me turn all those effects off. So this is how it sounds like when it's coming out of the Moog Clean. I used an auto filter. Also did some automation on the auto filter, just to introduce it towards the drop a little bit. And then this is one of my favorite plugins. It's from Native Instruments called Supercharger. And it gives a little bit saturation and a little bit more character. And especially for basses, I noticed that like the low end becomes a bit more fat. And then an EQ to get rid of the really low frequencies here. And a little bit of the mid bass. This really didn't sound nice to me, so I got rid of it. A shaper box for a sidechain effect, and then a little echo boy for a stereo effect. On the echo boy is a low cut because you don't want to have like the low frequencies echoing, so only the high frequencies of this bass are echoing. And then together with this bass, for this second bass I used the track spacer and it reacts to the Moog bass, and what it actually does, you can see it here. It ducks in the frequencies that you tell it to duck compared to the Moog, so they don't sit in each other's way. It's like a sort of a sidechain, but then on the above sounds. And I use the second layer just to make it even more fat. Okay, so that's for the bass. Then here we have the bass impact. In the drop you can hear this. What gives it those kind of big room techno vibes for me. And it consists of 2 layers also. I made this one with Diva. It's like a very wide bass, and then layered it with an impact bass I made on the Moog. Didn't do much processing here. A little bit of EQing. Got rid of the low end a bit, because I already had the bass line, the low, so I don't really need much low in the impact. And then together it sounds like this. Okay, so that's for the bass impact. Then we head to the drums. For me, this is not the most exciting thing to explain, but I'm gonna just show you the elements I used in here. So a shaker loop, a groove that I made with also different automation, as you can see right here. So at some points the decay of the hi-hat is opened up, and you can get like this kind of a rhythmic effect. And you can see it right here. On this rolling hi-hat groove, there are a couple of effects. An enhanced EQ to boost the hi-hat a little bit, give it more presence. A soothe too, to get rid of the annoying frequencies. Like these are being cut out. And then the shaper box to give it a little bit of sidechain. And this is the interesting thing, the noise. So here you can see that I automated the noise. So during the track I automated the noise on this rolling hi-hat groove. So if you have like a transition or anything, or if you want to introduce something, or just have a bit of variation, then you can just let the noise come and go. Hi-hat. This is actually a layer of 3 different hi-hats. All spread a little bit to make it one big fat hi-hat. A little bit of EQing to get rid of the low frequencies. And a little reverb. Then over here, alright. This helps me a lot to keep energy in the track. Like for example on this drop. First drop was like this. And the second drop I wanted to give a little bit more energy. And those rides always help a lot. Okay, so the snare, it's like a common rhythm. And after 8 bars I like to have like the kind of a fill thing. Okay, so those were the drums. And on the drum bus itself I have an EQ, just to make sure I don't have any unwanted low frequencies. A decapitator to give it a little bit more filth. And a glue compressor, which does parallel compressing to glue it a little bit together. And of course a little bit of soothe. Like these kind of frequencies are now cut out. Alright, so that were the drums. Over here I have a snare uplifter. With the automation on a long reverb, which I have on my synths. So that's a cool way to make a kind of a transition or a build-up. And as you can see right here, also the decay is increasing. So towards the drop, the snare is a little bit longer than when it starts out. Alright, that's it for the drums. Then we get to the musical part, which are the chords. Here I have the MIDI notes of the chords. And I recorded it with my Prophet Rev 2. For me it gives always such a warm sound. And it's nice to search for sounds and tweak a little bit with actual knobs and without looking at the screen for me. So this is the first layer. And as you can see, it didn't use a lot of effects on this as the sound itself is already pretty solid. And then here's the other part. A bit more warmth. And here I used an EQ just to get rid of the lows and a little bit of this frequency, which I found annoying. And then together. And for the second layer I turned the width a little up here. So now it's like blending together real nicely. And then on the group from the pads I added the filters, an exciter. Which gives it a little bit more analog feel with this tape effect, but not too much. Then there's another EQ, getting rid of some of the annoying frequencies. And the track spacer, and this actually sidechains to the kick. So here you can see that's working, and when the kick is gone, it stops working. So in the break I didn't want to have like the ducking effect. So whenever the kick's gone, it's like flat, and when the kick kicks in, then it gets a sidechaining effect, as you can hear right now. Then here I have the ARP. And this basically just follows the chords. And here I automated the filter cutoff. It was made in Serum, by the way. So I'll also use it like to make build-ups and work towards transitions. Effect-wise, there's a supercharger again, a little bit of soothe, and shaper box. For a little bit of sidechain. Not too much, as it doesn't have really low end, but also to have sidechain on the higher frequencies, sometimes it gives it a little bit more groove. Okay, so that was it for the ARP. Well, on the main vocals, they were already pretty good. The only thing I did is auto filter to get rid of the lows, vintage limiter to make sure it sounds even everywhere. And that was it. A little bit of reverb also. And here I have something called Atmos. Which basically is just kind of a looping thing. And I like to use these kind of things to just fill up the spectrum a bit. Because if you listen to the track with and without, and now I turn it off. Turn it on again. For me, it makes a track feel a little bit more alive. So that's why I like to use these kind of things to just fill up the track. And then I have a little effects. Just for transitions. Not much else here. And then my process is always to export this to 24-bit wave. And then open a new project and then begin with the master. Okay, so here we have the master file or the pre-master. And on this track, no effects are on. The only effects are on the main. And I add a little bit of soothe. And it just gets rid of the annoying frequencies a little bit. It's a preset called A Bit Less Would Do. Just to start with. Then the main thing happens in Ozone. This is a plugin I use for all my masters. And what you can basically do is set in a reference track and then let your master assistant make a starting point for you based on that reference track. I always have to adjust a couple of things though, but for me it's nice to have a little bit of a starting point. So here I have an equalizer. Boosting a little bit of the frequencies of the overall track. And then an exciter. You have to listen closely, but it gives a little bit more of that analog feel. And then here, a tape effect. Gives it a little bit more body. The dynamic EQ, that was based on the reference track that I sent in. And if it doesn't sound bad, then I'll just leave it. Here I have an imager to make the track a little bit more stereo. So you can hear it now in the middle, and now it gets wider a bit. And then over here the maximizer to boost the volume a bit. And at the end a vintage limiter to make it standard to your reference track. And it's limiting a little bit, but not so much that it's clipping or anything or distorting. It keeps it pretty clean. And another plugin I always use is Metric AB, and then you can really measure your track against some professional tracks that you really like. So you can see the spectrum, you can see the correlation, stereo image, dynamics, but also loudness. So I can see now here that my track is a little bit louder than my reference tracks, but it doesn't distort or anything, or it sounds clean. So that's nice for me to know, and also to visually see. So that's basically what I always use. And then when I referenced it and it sounds good, then it's finished. Thank you for watching my breakdown of the edit I made of Billie Eilish Chihiro. I hope you learned something from it, and if you have any other questions, just leave it in the comment section and I'll answer all of them. Thank you.